What is done is that we allow journalists, we enter into a question-answer sort of session. Yes, we can still do so. So we can field some questions, and then I'll ask, yes, good in Kulma National Chair. Now, we will then ask the SG and his team to also respond to the questions. Any one of you, it's all right. So, Mina, I'm almost like a referee. I want hands from journalists. You will introduce your name, the house that you represent, and tell us why you're here. Now that you're asking, I can hear you. Oh yeah, there's a mic, yes.
My name is Mkhonto from News 24. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Got a few questions. Mr. Shabambo, you've just announced changes specifically to Gauteng, but there are names that I didn't hear of people who serve in legislatures, for example. These announcements, will they lead to any changes in your caucuses in Gauteng, Limpopo, KZN, where you are represented in provincial government? Also, what was the criteria for choosing the people that have been chosen, considering that there wasn't a democratic process? In that regard as well, what is the plan to manage dissent in the event that people who believe contributed to where you are today were not chosen? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Any other hand? Yes, sir. A roving mic to this point.
My name is Tabiso Koba from Eyewitness News.
Okay.
I just want to, the SG, you spoke about a by-election committee. I don't know, you didn't delve much into it. I imagine it has to do with what happened in KZN when there was some confusion around an MK candidate. So I don't know, has the MK party established a committee where by-election candidates will be chosen and stuff like that? And I think my second question is around the responsibilities that have been given to the newly elected conveners, specifically for the Women's and the Youth League, that when they launch, they should have these VDs and branches set up. I just want to know that in cases that should that not happen, what is going to happen with those leadership structures? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You said your name is Taviso. Okay. Any other hand?
Samonani Kamunkosnati Shazi in Tatelia Power FM. I just have two questions. So Progressive Caucus, which is led by Mkhonto Wesizwe, is the official opposition at Parliament. But there have been tensions between EFF and MK, which are the two biggest parties, Progressive Caucus. In December, EFF leader Julius Malema made some scathing remarks on the leader of Mkhonto Wesizwe, Mongameli Jacob Zuma. So I just want to find out, as we head into 2025, is the relationship between MK and EFF as a Progressive Caucus, is it still stable? And then Mbuzo Wamoktrina, MK party also announced that Colin Makubela and Adil Nchabeling, if I'm not, yes, have been announced as new members of parliament. Are you guys still recruiting new members, or are you talking to other politicians? And perhaps, just to throw the spanner in the works, is Mkhonto Wesizwe speaking to Umbuyiseni Ndlozi following his resignation as a member of parliament of the EFF? Ngiyabonga.
I'll ask SG2 to respond, and perhaps any other member of the national officials to do so.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for the questions that have been raised. Now, the constitution of Mkhonto Wesizwe specifically says that those who are appointed into the provincial detachments cannot be deployed to the representative bodies such as the provincial legislature, parliament, or councils. So this is separate leadership. That is why not only in Gauteng province, but in all provinces, we are not going to have members of the provincial legislature or members of parliament leading structures of Mkhonto Wesizwe at provincial and regional level. So there's no duality of rules except in exceptional circumstances, and even in those exceptional circumstances, if we take someone from parliament or people from parliament, they cannot exceed 10% of the overall leadership collective of the organization. So the constitution does not allow for dual leadership. You lead in parliament and decide. Those who are in parliament are focusing on parliament, and those who are leading the organization are focusing on the organization on a full-time basis. We are going to listen to people who have got concerns. They must tell us why they think the leadership collective that we have identified is not correct. But majority of times, people who object to leadership collectives is people who are self-seeking. They want to nominate themselves. They say, not that one. When you ask them who must be occupying that position instead of the people that have been chosen, they point at themselves. And that is the opportunism that we do not want in Mkhonto Wesizwe. We want disciplined cadres that will understand the leadership and the objectives of the movement. The criteria that was used to choose the leadership, one is that everyone who is chosen is a member of Mkhonto Wesizwe. Two is that they've demonstrated the capacity to could lead at a provincial level. If they are leading at national level or at whatever level, they've demonstrated leadership capabilities. So we have observed the work that they've been doing in different responsibilities that they were assigned to. So it's not people that have not played a role before, it's people who have been leading in the organization. It's people who have got skills. So we've done a skills attention to the people that have been identified so that there is proper balance of the skills that are needed to lead the organization. So all of these leaders were identified through that criteria. And then in terms of provinces, we take into cognizance the geographic spread and balance. So in the leadership, the 8 leadership components members that come from Limpopo, you know, there's leadership from Waterberg region, from Opani, from Uvembe, from Capricorn, from Skukun. And that is just the balance. In terms of the gender as well, we have given that into consideration. Both the convener and coordinator of Limpopo is females. The convener of Gauteng is female. The convener of Mpumalanga is female. So it's part of a collective consideration that we should ultimately have a leadership collective that represents everyone in a far much more balanced and representative way. So the by-election guideline which we have adopted is that, one is that from now henceforth, there is no lower structure which is going to have the permissibility to register candidates for by-elections. Candidates are going to be strictly registered by the head office. But before a by-election takes place, the leadership of the province is going to visit all the voting districts in the ward that has by-elections declared and conduct community meetings and community engagements to check what are the issues that are affecting the ward, and then start the process of selection of candidates for who is most suitable as a candidate for each and every ward. But such elections is going to start at a VD level and later on consolidated into a ward election of a candidate by all members of the community. Because in Mkhonto Wesizwe, we want the community to choose from amongst our members as to who is best suitable to represent them as a ward candidate. And the reason we're doing that is because there were instances in the past where some people went to appoint a ward candidate who was not grounded, who was not popular, who was not known in the wards where we're contesting by-elections. Then we say that let us now give it to the control of the people on the ground. We had an incident as well in Msunduzi Ward 2, where the community chose a candidate, and then leadership of the province went to register a candidate contrary to what was the outcome of the community meetings. And we took a correct decision as the national office to not support the candidate who was wrongly registered. The elections went on. That candidate got 37%. The ANC won that ward because they had influenced the registration of a wrong candidate. And we have suspended that candidate from the organization. And we have suspended the people who registered that person wrongly, because we will not tolerate ill discipline in Mkhonto Wesizwe. If the community has decided who is going to be our candidate, that is final. There is no super authority which is going to change the will of the people. We are busy fighting the people who have distorted and stolen elections to distort the will of the people after 2024. We can't allow that to happen within the organization. So every time someone tries to distort the outcomes of our internal process, we will take decisive action. So that is basically what the guidelines say, so that people do not go there and say, I'm a provincial leader, I am going to choose who is the councillor candidate without the will of the people. Every time a candidate is chosen, there has to be the participation of the community where that candidate is going to come from. No, there is no tension between Mkhonto Wesizwe and any component of the Progressive Caucus. So the Progressive Caucus is constituted as per the Progressive Caucus Charter, which commits us to common ideals and common political agenda and program in Parliament. As far as we're concerned, there has not been a single member of the Progressive Caucus, not the EFF, not the ATM, not the NCC, not the AUC. None of those have come to the Progressive Caucus and say, let's amend the Progressive Caucus Charter. So the Progressive Caucus Charter continue to define the common progressive politics that were jointly in pursuit of in Parliament. So the Progressive Caucus is all of us who are opposed to the government of national unity, or the so-called government of national unity of the DA-ANC alliance. As far as we're concerned, that agenda still stands. We do not know what people say elsewhere, but what we know is that the Progressive Caucus is still intact. So, you know, after the recall of the 10 members of Parliament of Mkhonto Wesizwe, the MK party had submitted the first supplement of the 2024 list of members of Parliament. So that list which was submitted included the comrades Brian Mulife, Siyabonga Gama, Lucky Montana, Eric Penny Kobane, and a lot of them. So Adil Chabeling and Colleen Makubele were part of that list that was gazetted at that time. Then when we had to replace the 10 that are now out of Parliament from Mkhonto Wesizwe, when we wanted to do the second supplementation, then Parliament indicated that except for the people whose names have been submitted already, you can only supplement the list after the end of 12 months, which will be 29 May or 1st of June 2025. So we are in engagement with Parliament and the Speaker to say, let us be allowed to fill all the vacancies of Mkhonto Wesizwe that have existed. But because Adil Nchabeling and Colleen Makubela were part of the list original, they then are going to be sworn in on Tuesday, the 28th of January 2025 in Cape Town, because already their names were already gazetted as part of the National Assembly list. And then of course they are joining what we say is qualitatively the best parliamentary caucus in South Africa. Because if you were to check the composition of our parliamentary caucus, you will realize that by all measure and standards, we are far much better placed to provide quality oversight, quality legislation, but also quality government as a collective and as individuals who are deployed to the legislature. Mkhonto Wesizwe recruits every day. We recruit everyone. We talk to all members. But what we know thus far is that the people who come voluntarily to Mkhonto Wesizwe still far outnumber those we recruit ourselves. That is why we say in Mkhonto Wesizwe that asbabis bayazizela. They come by themselves. So the ones that are still coming by themselves far outnumber those who are recruiting as an organization. Because this is a movement that is in pursuit of total decolonization. The former liberation movement, whose head office is not very far from us, only pursued political power with the hope that political power is going to bring about everything else. And then another organization was formed to say that political power is not adequate. You need to fight for economic power as well. Mkhonto Wesizwe says, let us fight for total emancipation, for total freedom. Let's fight for total political emancipation. Let's fight for total economic emancipation. Let's fight for total cultural emancipation. Let's fight for total social emancipation. Let's fight for total knowledge emancipation. So Mkhonto Wesizwe is fighting for total freedom with an appreciation that the original aims and objectives of the liberation struggle have not yet been achieved. The land still is in the hands of those who owned it before apartheid nominally ended. So we still have to fight on. The struggle continues. It's aluta continua. It's pambirine chemurenga. That is the struggle that we are in pursuit of and will never retreat. And in the process of conducting that struggle, a lot of logical human beings appreciate that this is the correct and best vehicle to fight for total decolonization and total freedom. And we're expecting more progressive forces and progressive individuals to come to Mkhonto Wesizwe and their numbers to consolidate an organization which is not just going to be official opposition, but is preparing to take over government. It will be sooner in KwaZulu-Natal. It might take longer in the national parliament. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are folding up. Thanks for questions and thanks for this particular engagement. On behalf of the national officials, we take this opportunity to congratulate the newly assigned comrades, both in the National High Command, in the provincial detachments, the Women's League as well as the Youth League. When we say congratulations, we don't imply that they are celebrities. Leadership responsibility is about provision of guidance, and in the provision of guidance, at the center of it, is the question of ensuring that their task is to unite each and every one of us behind an organizational program, behind a political program. So that's what leadership is all about. The second aspect of leadership is, of course, the ability to conceptualize the next step. And that's what they will be expected to do, precisely because when we say that MK is setting itself up structurally for functional purposes, it is important to consolidate that kind of work with a view to institutionalize what we began. So that's what the assignment is to provincial detachments and all of us as a collective. We are duty bound that we have got to work together at all material times. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the press conference and this subsequent engagement has come to an end. Thank you very much. Of course,